So welcome everybody after the invigorating cup of tea or coffee. So this session is, in my view, one of the most important sessions of the day, which is India-Korea cooperation in deepening electronics value chain and digital industrialization. I think this is a very important area and an area where there is enormous potential. And we are privileged to have Mr. Alkesh Kumar Sharma ji, who is heading our department or Ministry of MeitY as the secretary. He's done pioneering work in that office, and he has the satisfaction of seeing the benefits being reported in the media all the time. So with that opening welcome comment, and also I may add that I've been an admirer of his ever since I first met him. So may I request you for your opening comments. Mr. Agarwal is on his way. He will join us.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chair, Ajay Shankar, sir, Mr. Sudham Kim, Professor Nagesh Kumar, distinguished friends. At the outset, I would like to congratulate both Dr. Namun Kwan, President of KIET, and Professor Nagesh Kumar for ISID for signing this MOU today. I think it will go a long way in extending our collaboration. While India and the Republic of Korea have been cooperating in multiple areas in the last couple of decades, but I think every time we keep on coming up with something new, either it is a bilateral agreement or it is these kinds of MOUs which help us in exchanging our information, technology, whatever knowledge we have, as well as also cooperating on multiple areas of right from manufacturing to technology transfer. As far as India is concerned, in last decade or so, if we look at, while we have been, we launched Make in India about a decade ago. And since then, there have been multiple reforms, policy reforms, supply side reforms, tax reforms, ease of doing business. If we look at the kind of laws and which we have annulled, almost 1,500 old laws have been annulled in last decade or so. So the whole idea was that we must create an atmosphere, we must create an environment for investors that they should have the confidence that investing in India is risk-free. And to de-risk that, whether it comes to legislation, whether it comes to environment clearance issues, whether it is something to do with land acquisition, whether it is to do with taxation, all those things have to be made easy. And I think that is what has been done to a great extent. Some of the sectors have been large beneficiaries of that. Some of them, it still has to percolate down to them. But when we look at electronics manufacturing sector, I think we have been a great beneficiary. And if you look at what has happened in last decade or so, we have really done well in electronic sector, and it has been one of the pioneering sector when it comes to India's manufacturing growth. If you look at our electronics items production in last decade, while we were about 30 billion in 2014-15, today we have about 115 billion. So with a cumulative growth of about 17.5%. Export of electronic goods has also gone up substantially from 5.7 billion USD about a decade ago to more than 29 billion now. Again, a CAGR of 20% plus. India has become the second largest manufacturer of mobile phones, thanks to Samsung, and obviously you have been our partner in making it in India. So that's again quite a, I mean, it has shown a growth of about 36% in last 2 decades. Export has also grown up substantially. So these are the things now. There was a time when we launched Make in India, 74% of mobile phones were imported. Today, 99% mobile phones are made in India. So there is a lot of things which are happening, and MeitY has been a pioneer. I mean, we have been deeply invested, if we can say that, whether it was policy, coming out with incentive schemes, setting up clusters, manufacturing clusters which have plug-and-play facilities, whether it comes to incentives to the PLI schemes, which was the latest which we have introduced. I think all those have really given us the benefit. But now the time has come that we have set up a quite an ambitious target for ourselves. We want to touch a 500 billion USD electronics manufacturing by the end of this decade. And for that, obviously, we have to have a multi-pronged strategy, right from looking at shifting supply chain to look at India's own manufacturing. While India has been a destination of frugal manufacturing, if we can say, the cost of labor is low. We have good skilled talent available. We have, in terms of technology, also a lot of things are coming up, especially in the new and emerging sectors like semiconductor. When it comes to design ecosystem, I think India has been doing quite well. So these are some of the things, and I thought I'll just, while we have almost 600 odd Korean companies, and I have been in my previous avatar, which the project which was conceived by our distinguished chair in 2006-7, and I delivered in terms of getting some of the best companies from Korea, including Hyosung. They have the second largest manufacturing base in India, in Aurangabad. The new exhibition center, Yashobhumi, again, we have the Korean partner, Kinex. They are the one who are managing the whole convention complex. And there have been multiple companies who have been supported by us, whether it was Samsung or LG, in different capacities. So Korea has been one of our important partners in this journey. And there have been a large number of areas where we could actually collaborate, right from strengthening our electronic manufacturing system. Some of the companies have been doing well, but then I think there's a lot of potential where Korean companies, while Samsung and LG are already looking at expanding their operations in India, but a lot of new programs which government is introducing, including the PLI on IT hardware. We are also soon coming out with a PLI on component systems. I think that is where many companies from Korea should use it as a platform to expand their technology. They come with new components. Look at semiconductor, which is an emerging sector. Possibilities of having joint ventures. Tata had already had one with Foxconn, but I think they were Winston. But then we have multiple Indian companies who are looking at JV partners because they understand India's ecosystem. And obviously, you have better technology, you have better, so probably resource and technology, but India has the ecosystem, which should help. R&D and technology is one area where India has been investing quite a lot nowadays. We would be seeking how we could collaborate on that. While some of the companies from the West have already started partnering with India, but I'm sure we'll be looking at South Korea, how you could get into that kind of a thing. Digital industrialization. Digitalization has been our focus in last decade when we started Digital India program in 2015. And the whole mission was that we must reach the last mile. And I distinctly remember when Honorable Prime Minister launched this, he had given a clarion call that we will focus on 4 important pillars. One was connectivity, that every village, every hamlet of India should be connected digitally. Some kind of a connectivity, whether it is Wi-Fi. We laid a huge network of optical fibers connecting to the last panchayat, last village. Second one was about the digital device. We should ensure, while that was the time when we were importing almost 78% of mobile phones and almost all laptop and tablets were being imported. Today, we have come to a stage where we are self-sufficient in mobile phones, but then we are also looking at creating an ecosystem for tablets and laptops and all other this thing. So that was device as well as the cost of device. There was also a target that we should make sure that every household should have a device. Then only he'll be able to do digitalization. He'll be able to do online transactions. So the cost of device was important. So you also ensure that nowadays in India, probably we can get a smartphone in almost $10 to $15. So that's the kind of, you have a range. Of course, course. We can get the best quality of Apple 16, but then we also have, same thing was the cost of data. That the people in the far-flung areas, in village, and the person who is still below poverty line or almost at the poverty line, he should also be able to make use of data. So the cost of data has to be kept low. And today we are probably the lowest. As we say in India, that the cost of a GB data is less than a cup of tea. So that is what we have been able to maintain. And the fourth was that we all must create a digital mindset. So digital literacy became one of our focus areas. And we ensured that when we did a survey in 2016-17, we found that almost 60 million families did not have a person in their house who could understand. Digitally literate. When we say digitally literate, you should be able to operate a system on his own. So we had to create a special training, and I'm happy that 4.9, almost 49 million of those have already been done. And the target is that by end of this year, or maybe by mid of next year, every household in India should have at least a person who is digitally literate. So with these kind of 4 targets, we created the Digital India platform, and the DPIs which we have created as India's Tech Global, I think some of the best DPIs which we are now exporting to the world, whether it is our UPI, our digital identity, Aadhaar, our DigiLocker, our hospital services, eSanjeevani. There are multiple DPI, the digital public infrastructure stacks, which we are now exporting to the world, and almost 39 countries have already shown interest. We have signed MOU with 11, 13 of them. And some of the big countries, including Singapore, UAE, our neighbors, France, they have already started using India's digital payment system. So this is the fun part of the story. So there is a lot of things which we could leverage both the countries, right from smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0. We have to learn a lot from you there. And then a good startup ecosystem. While Korean startup ecosystem is good, but then India is one of the fastest growing startup ecosystem. I was talking with Sir, the deep tech startup, India is putting a lot of emphasis on deep tech startups, so that we start also doing great activities on that. Digital public goods I've spoken about. One of the areas which is a major concern for us is about circular economy and how do we manage our e-waste. I think that is where there's a lot of potential for partnership between both the countries. Geopolitical and trade challenges, I think that's a dynamic thing. We keep on making friends and foes, but I think India still is one of the stable partners with our stable policies and a stable government in last decade or so. We should really make good use of that. We have signed SEPA, the Free Trade Agreement, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. I think we should make good use of that to ensure that the tariffs are reasonable, and we should be able to foster a seamless trade. Supply chain diversification is another last area. I'll dwell upon it later, as and when it comes. At this stage, sir, I would just like to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you, sir. It's indeed a pleasure, a privilege to be on the same stage as sir, and both of them have been illustrious seniors in the service and in the government, so learned a lot from them. And we all share one commonality in terms of having worked in DPIIT at some point in time. And different portfolios, but I guess the ethos and the overall ecosystem is something all of us are very well accustomed and equipped with. Apologies for coming in a bit late. I know in terms of electronics, they can, the electrons do not come in late, but that's the way it is in the traffic in Delhi. So this today obviously is a critical aspect of on the not only in terms of a sector, an economic sector, but also in terms of the geopolitical scenario that is evolving and evolving at a very rapid pace out there. We already have the trilateral ISID dialogue between the three countries, India, South Korea, and the US. Although this trilateral mechanism is slightly limited vis-a-vis the bilat between India and USA, but we do hope to see this evolve into a much more robust mechanism, which will look at various aspects and really take things forward. As a company, Samsung obviously is at the forefront of not only innovation, cutting edge technologies, both here and in the US, in Korea and globally. I guess the most striking feature would be that Samsung has made India its second base after Korea. And not only do we have thousands of engineers deployed out here, but they are actually working on technologies for the world. And I guess the biggest, so to say, the way to look at that would be the number of patents. They filed almost 8,000 patents out of here, and Samsung has been one of the biggest filers on the IP ecosystem of India. That's one way where we look at collaboration and R&D at one end or the upstream, and then moving on further to the manufacturing, where Samsung obviously has been manufacturing here for almost 3 decades, and it could be mobiles, it could be the consumer electronics and all products, a wide array of products out there. And it's not only, if I were to say, use the example of televisions, it's not just manufacture of televisions, it's also manufacture of televisions and refrigerators, etc. But with at the highest end, so to say, in terms of our quality and in terms of the new technologies that are emerging out there. So that's, this collaboration, and we are seeing it, and Samsung obviously is playing a large part in bringing that ecosystem and bridging the gap between the two countries. The important point, obviously, when it comes to value chain, and Samsung has been here, and we have developed an invaluable value chain with our vendors also coming into the country and being part of the ecosystem and bringing in components and the manufacturing of a lot of these components upstream, so as to deepen the overall value addition in this country. There are challenges. I would be remiss if I were not to mention them, and both in terms of tariff and non-tariff barriers that industry faces. The good point is that we do see the government as listening to industry, and while there may be some issues that would crop up from time to time, but at the same time, there is a redressal of those issues over time. So that's something we hope will continue. To what Nageshji, when you invited me, to me this becomes a very important forum, because where the the minds on both sides from both countries can actually come together, and they can be a very focused bilateral mechanism to ensure that whatever barriers or whatever challenges industry faces in both the countries, those can be taken care of by the respective governments. We do know the India-Korea CEPA is under review, and that is something which is of, obviously, the CEPA has been a huge success, at least in terms of the overall bilateral trade. The trade imbalance is something which obviously does impact India to a larger extent, but I guess over time, as the manufacturing prowess of India increases, that will also come down. But we do hope to see that review, end successfully, and things can then move on to the next level. And we would like to play our part as Samsung, as industry out here. And I would not like to speak on behalf of the other Korean companies, which obviously are here in full force. So we have in the auto sector, we have obviously in the electronic sector, and a host of them. And going forward, maybe there'll be more in the the semicon industry also. But the sky is the limit. There are a lot more sectors where we can bring expertise to the country. Building that atmosphere of of trust and building that confidence in each other would go a long way in bringing in investments into the country and vice versa. So that's something we continuously strive for and would look forward to this particular forum, this particular seminar as coming out with ideas which could then be brought to the fore and actually put in practice by the respective authorities. So back to you.
Yeah, there must be materials. The last one. So let this. Yeah. Okay, everyone. My name is Soo-Dong Kim from KIET. This is the last presentation. I think you have been waiting for all day long, right? So today I'm going to present the opportunities and challenges for digital trade between India and Korea. Okay, there must be some the table of content, but it's missing. I don't know where it's gone. But by the way, the introduction. This digital trade is kind of a most recent area in the the trade the field. We have been focusing on the usually good and commodity, good and service trade for many decades. But nowadays many the trade is many trade occurs in the digitally, right? And also good and services. So it is a most promising area in the trade area. So now I'm talking about that issue and today. And first introduction, digital trade is is kind of defined as all international trade transactions that are occurred, that are ordered digitally and also digitally delivered. So it's kind of a formal definition. And the value of the global export of digitally delivered service reached $3.82 trillion in 2022, and it is capturing about 54% of total global service export. So it's and accounting for 12% of total good and service export. So so between 2005 and 2020, the average annual growth rate of digitally delivered service reached 8.1%, outpacing those of good export 5.6%, and other service export 4.2%. So it's almost a double increase. And also, so this rapid growth in digital trade highlights the increasing importance and influence of digital technology in global economies. So, So as the digital economy continues to evolve, policymakers and consumers and businesses are, grappling with the opportunities and challenges it presents. So, and also digital trade enables business to provide goods and services across borders in a more seamless and cost-effective manners. So next, let's look at the potential of digital technology, growth, and trade and development opportunities. So now, digitalization changes the way the economy grows. So as I mentioned earlier, the digital trade, account for a huge percentage of, global trade. And also digitalization promote wider service-led growth. Okay. So if we have, if you, as you see, if you have, the phone, you can order, you can deliver, you can make, the marketing, and you can make, whatever you want nowadays, right? So, so that is the, digital economy and digital, service you can do. So, so there are some the benefits of, digital trade. First, digitalization can lower production cost. So when I visited the Hyundai this month, the whole processing, factory has automated processing the production. So the robot and some digitally the computer system control the whole the production system, and more than over 90% of that those production is controlled by the digital computer system or something like that. So, and second, digitalization facilitates exchange of ideas and foster innovation. So you can change your idea, and you can share your information with others using by phone immediately, and so something like that. And also the company can facilitate their production or their marketing and their the training, etc. The third, digital the connectivity lowers transaction international trade cost, thus boosting trade across all sectors. And digital trade can be an engine for growth nowadays. And digitalization strengthens resilience against some kind of the event of unpredictable nature. Okay. Also, but that kind of nowadays digital the trade is is usually occurred in developed countries, and some mostly, and some of the developing or developing economies are struggling to the part of this transformation, digital transformation. So let's look at some interesting figures. So we know the statistics is not is offered a lot. So now is kind of some limitations. So the share of digital ordered export varies significantly across economies, from 5% in Thailand, and 8% in Malaysia, and 18% in the United Kingdom, UK. And also the global export of digitally delivered service, as I said, $3.8 trillion in 2022, and it's kind of 4 times increase in compared to the in 2005 value. So it's accounting for 54% of global service export. And also among them, the European Union hold largest share, like 30%, 37% of that digital delivery service, and the US account for 16%, and the UK 9%. While the 17% from the middle income economies. like India, has accounting for 5% out of 17%. And also, let's look at some figures here. Figure 1, it shows the value and share of cross-border business e-commerce sale. So the far right is the UK's, and in 2019, the value is about the domestic the e-commerce sale about $700 billion, and cross-border sales, e-commerce sale is about not exactly about 180 or among to 200. So 18% of e-commerce sale coming from the the cross-border. So so maybe this number is 2019. So nowadays it's much bigger than that number, I think. And also in Spain, Canada, Malaysia, Thailand, the cross-border e-commerce sale is increasing dramatically nowadays. And figure 2 shows the global export of digitally delivered service have grown faster than export of goods and service, other services. So if you look at the lines, the top, the red line is digitally delivered services. So if you look at 2005, the index number is 100, and now the 2022, it is about 370 or 380. So it's 4 times. No, excuse me. So if you compare to the the green the dot the line the other services, if you compare those two the lines the digital delivery service is about two times faster growth rate compared to the other services. So so digital delivery service is growing faster than the other services. We can see. Next figure shows that the digital delivery service export are dominated by high-income economies like UK and US or some developed countries, and a small number of middle-income economies. If you look at the figure, the high income, the blue color is 8%, 80.7% is coming from the high income economies, and some middle income, like a light green, middle income economy, it accounts for 17.1%, and low income the economy only 0.2%. So let's move on to the next slide. So digital transformation and growth is here. So digital trade provides opportunity to launch new products. So digital technology have provided you opportunity to trade a broad range of services and also even goods. So and also trade in goods that underpin the use of digital technology has seen an increase too. So if you look at the bottom, some of the area field like business and professional and technical services, which account for about 40%, and some computer service 20%, financial service 16%, something, and so on. So the importance of India on digital sector. So digital sector is a promising area for collaboration with India, given the US-China conflict and the India's growing market. So from the telecommunication equipment to AI, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and legal system such as digital trade norms. Nowadays the Indian government put some brakes on those investment from China. So like Korea, we have there are a lot of opportunity to invest in the India in those areas. In addition, India has a growing digital economy and excellent innovation capabilities, including in artificial intelligence, and some ICT areas. Again, the importance of India in digital sector, digital delivered services. So India has a strong position in services. So if you look at the information technology and business process management, is the largest export of the service export. So it's almost half, 50%, over 50% accounts for the the India's service export in 2021 to 2022. And also the India is ranked among the top 10 largest export in digitally delivered service in 2021. But however, in the last decade, the country's contribution to global share was largely stagnant. If you look at the next the figure 4, the line, the top line, between 2010 to 2021, the number, the share is among between 4 to 5%. It's stagnant. It's not growing or not the decreasing. It's kind of a stable thing type situation. And also, if you look at the figure 5, the compound annual growth rate of export in this segment is close to 7%, 6.9% actually. But compared to the China, 10.7%, Singapore 11.6%, it's somewhat lower. That kind of some countries, China and Singapore. So next topic is in Korea-India economic relations. But I think you already have seen many of these numbers in the previous presentation. So let's jump to the next topic. You can refer some numbers if you see. So India's digital trade negotiations. India announced that it was actively negotiating trade agreement with various trading partners. So recently in 2022, India, UAE, made a deal, the CEPA deal recently, and also India, engaged in many other trade negotiations. If you look at the figure, the next figure 6. This is the map of how many countries and how many economies India engaged in trade negotiation. Some of them are under negotiation. Some of them are in the discussion. Some of them already took effect. This negotiation. So if you look at the middle of the map, India UAE CEPA. It was completed in 2022. There is some kind of digital provisions in that negotiations. Anyway, so digital trade is likely to be an important issue in these talks, in these negotiations. So such as e-commerce chapter or the competition chapter. Maybe the intellectual property chapter. There are some chapters regarding with some this digital area. So in this negotiation, promoting digital trade aligns with India's strategic economic goals. So for India, digital trade is promising in terms of growth and productivity relative to the trade in goods. So, to see, how India, negotiate the trade provisions, we have to look at them, India's the UAE, the CEPA negotiation. So there is some kind of a guideline how India negotiate, that kind of the provisions, detailed provisions. So, okay. Again, there are many negotiations. As you know, the Korea also have a lot of the FTAs, free trade agreement with countries, US, EU, China, many others. So like India, we also try to make some negotiation, try to make an agreement, a free trade agreement with many other nations. So this digital trade negotiation is mostly, we can see in the the RTA, regional trade agreement, like CEPA, FTA, many others. So in the participation of developing economies kind of have some remain limited. Many usually some developed country engaged in this kind of a trade, digital trade negotiation. So international cooperation on digital trade relation disciplines has primarily occurred with the framework of RTAs. But as you know, there are some the negotiation specialized in the trade, the digital trade, like DEPA, DEPA, Digital Economic Partnership Agreement. There are some 4 members there: New Zealand, Chile, Singapore, and Korea. There are 4 members that did DEPA. So, and also the Korea is engaged in some other, digital trade negotiation with the EU and Singapore and some others. So, so if you look at the graph, figure 7, the red line top is the number of the number of RTAs or RTAs, and if you look at this little bit bottom, some light blue line, over 30%, like 33, 34% has among those RTAs has digital provisions, digital chapters, something like that, like e-commerce or some competition, like those kind of chapters. The numbers are increasing gradually nowadays. And also, if you look at that kind of digital trade negotiation, you may see many kind of provisions. If you look at this figure 8, kind of there are many issues and also provisions and some topics like interactive computer service to the bottom, privacy, and the middle you can see the cross-border transfer of informative data flow. The most important issue is the data flow. Cross-border data flow. So if when you make when you see if you use the phone, your data go to the other country, and you can do many things using the phone cross-border. You can order something, you can share your information, you can talk with your friend in other countries. So that time data flows to cross-border flows. Then and so there must be some kind of regulation or some kind of rules to to control that kind of data. But this is the main the issue in the digital trade negotiation. Okay. So the cross-border data flows are the pivotal to the expansion and efficiency of digital trade. So in many digital trade negotiation, there are the chapters. There are some provisions about the data flows. So the surge in digitalization has been marked by an increase in digital data flow across economies. So cross-border data flows raise various policy concerns, and increasingly prompting economies to either condition data movement or mandate domestic data storage. Okay. So in the figure 9, there are many the regulation and measures control the data flow, cross-border data flow. Nowadays, increasing significantly. So if you look at the line, the numbers, the measures and the regulation or some kind of a standard or rules is increasing dramatically. So what kind of position of India has in the digital trade negotiation. So if you look at the, as I mentioned earlier, in the India, UAE, SEPA, there is some digital provisions. So now I made some tables here. Some of the provisions like cross-border data flows. If you look at the table first, the second, the first one, cross-border data flows. There is the free cross-border data flows. There is a provisions and commitment, but it is a little bit weaker commitment compared to the other the negotiations. But first, in the past, India is opposed to that kind of free data flows, cross-border data flows. But now this is a little bit has been changed. India's position. The second, the custom duty, like tax on digital delivery service or digital goods, cross-border goods. So India has some kind of the commitment in that the negotiation. So it is provide each party will maintain its practice of refraining to impose custom duty, but there is some other caveat. Neither party shall be prevented from imposing internal taxes on content transmitted electronically. So you can see there's some kind of India's position on what India has in this kind of provisions. There are some other provisions you can see. Let's move on to the conclusion. Let me conclude and make some suggestions. So, so to promote trade, digital trade. So the most important thing is a reliable and affordable digital infrastructure, along with of supportive public policies, is crucial for effectively participating in benefiting from digital trade. So this strategy includes investment in physical and digital infrastructure, enhancing digital literacy and skills, and adopting a regulatory framework that are conducive to digital trade. The second one, cooperation with India in high-tech and digital field is increasingly necessary, especially for the Korea. Between the U.S. and China conflict, Korea, seeking another country to invest in digital area, and also maybe India is kind of promising country for the Korea. So strengthening economic cooperation with India will help reduce Korea's economic dependence on China and increase its strategic autonomy from China. Korea will try to reduce the dependence on China, dependence from China. So that's the thing. And also, moreover, from Korea's perspective, India has a strong competitiveness in areas such as ICT, information communication technology, and aerospace, and also artificial intelligence, and can help Korea advance to its economy in the face of U.S.-China competition. Maybe in the bottom, Korea will have some kind of the Korea-India digital partnership, something or dialogue or something like that. We can establish that kind of talk. And third, competition policy is essential to maintain open and dynamic digital markets. So the transparent and pro-competitive business environment is vital for supporting and developing the digital economy. And enhancing the online, customer protection helps build trust in digital market. So the lack of, online consumer protection in digital trade can erode trust and hinder digital trade growth. Online consumer protection policies strive to ensure that consumers in the digital realm and are afforded the same level of of protection as those engaged in traditional commerce. So that would be my presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so now open for comments, questions.
Okay, can I first thank you for speakers. Thank you, very useful for understanding the electronics and digital economy. I would like to question Mr. Lazi Agrawal from the Samsung Electronics. So you already said Samsung also have facing a kind of trade and non-tariff and non-tariff barriers. So could you ask to sharing a kind of what kind of some tariff or non-tariff barriers into your business? And also, I would like to ask Mr. Sharma, what is the tariff and non-tariff policy to make the electronic industries to be a kind of leading the export industries?
So, okay. So it is actually constant endeavor and work in progress, where the intent of the government is very clear to encourage manufacturing in India, to increase the value addition within the country, and various measures are taken to encourage both positive, like a PLI, and Samsung has been one of the beneficiaries of the mobile PLI for large scale electronics, and now they're looking at a PLI for components also to encourage more and more people. So that's one part, and that's really heartening, because whatever be the cost stability of manufacturing in India vis-a-vis, let's say, China or Vietnam, at least in terms of perception, that does get taken care of through such positive measures like PLI and other measures. That said, I guess one thing which affects industry a lot is the predictability in the policies, and a sudden change in policy is something that really hits industry hard. And that's where we work in tandem and with the government also to try and sensitize the various stakeholders as to why bringing in a change in policy is okay, but that should come in a certain manner. Answer has been there at MIT. The Ministry of IT is one of the best examples of how policy changes should be brought in. There is intensive stakeholder consultation, and then the things come out. Obviously, to say that everything is going to be in line with what a particular company or a particular industry wants, that is not going to happen. It will. The government has to take care of all sides, but there is a desire to make sure that the concerns of industry are addressed while keeping the national, so to say, goals in mind. There are issues which crop up from time to time, as I pointed out, with in terms of predictability, in terms of ease of doing business, where the manufacturing does take a hit. We've had the recent spate of QCOs or quality control orders which have been issued. Now there are challenges out there in terms of implementation of those QCOs, and I'm sure over time they will get addressed. But for now, the entire industry, and to be very fair, it's not a policy that affects, say, a multinational only. It will affect multinationals, it will affect Indian companies also, and equally. There is absolutely no discrimination. That I think so is something that is really heartening for us to note. That if there is a policy, it will affect a Samsung, it will affect a US company, it will also affect an Indian company. So as a whole, when the industry gets together and along with the government, we try and find solutions to those issues. But to us, the most important point is that the industry is listened to, and we at least are able to convey what we want, and there is that sensitivity to try and reduce those friction points and try and uh, take care of all those, so to say, conflicts. The one point which maybe can be looked at, while the India-Korea relationship continues to be strong, but on the Indian ASEAN FTA, that is facing major problems. So while bringing in imports from China are always going to be looked at with a lot of scrutiny, but the India-ASEAN cross-border trade is something that has taken a hit, and that's a major cause of concern for industry. So if we are going to put barriers to that, and I do understand the the trade imbalance between the two regions, but that's something which should definitely be looked at closely, because it is now hurting the country more than just maybe reducing some manufacturing or reducing some imports out of ASEAN into India. But that's something which we need to balance very carefully. So
No, I think, thank you, Rajiv. You have answered quite a few of those concerns. I think when we look at our policies, trade and tariff policies, they are also based on, our own understanding of the issues, taking the national goal and policies, our own target and objectives of creating our own manufacturing, capabilities and capacities, and also ensuring at the same time that there should be a value add again when we are getting into new sectors. So with those things in mind, if we have looked at our agreements with UAE recently, we are just finalizing one with UK, we just signed something on digital and technology with EU. We had been clear in our mind that when it comes to digital trade, I'll talk about that now, that there has to be some kind of a data adequacy norms. And when we signed it with UAE, we had not come out with our DPDP Act. And that is why we had very consciously drafted that clause that it will be on those terms. But now the DPDP Act has come in, and where we have specifically said that we are not putting any restriction. It's a complete, we are whitelisting. So data transfer as per the existing new act, which has come in the force, is permitted unless it is blacklisted, unless it is stopped because of certain data adequacy norms or some of the laws where we find that it is not, or some geographies where we find it's not advisable or it's not safe or secure to have data border data flow. So the DPDP Act is very clear. Same thing is about talking about policy stability. I think we have been quite concerned about one thing, that when we have to come out with the policy decision, it will be with the stakeholder consultations. And we had extensive stakeholder consultations when it came to not only the digital policy, Data Protection Act, even the new policies which are coming out. QCOs is one of the issues which has been highlighted. I think there have been issues of security in some of the products. So they have come out with some quality control order which need to be maintained. But then I was told that there was enough time given. And industry is still requesting that maybe 6 months is not enough, maybe we need some more time. And government has been looking at it very consciously. I'm not in the government now, but then I think there had been time when I said, okay, let industry tell us how much time they want. But when you do something, when government wants to implement something, you have to begin with a timeline. And then the things start getting done, and there's always a back and forth. But that should not come in the way. Policy stability, as I said, we have a stable government. It's the third term of the present government, which is a very decisive government. I have seen it in my tenure. The decisions are taken, whether it was on semiconductor or on the DPDP bill, which had been hanging fire for many years, but got done so quickly. So there have been multiple AI mission, which we have come out with. All these things have been quite fast. The whole objective is that we must create an ecosystem whereby, as I said in the beginning, that our partners, whether it is Korea or any other Southeast Asian geography or economy, we should ensure that you don't face any problem. I mean, that's the kind of, then obviously it's a matter of trust when it comes to. So government has been very conscious on that. Thank you.
Other question, comment from anybody?
Vietnam's electronics exports have been far more dynamic than India. A lot of it is attributed to FDI, and a lot of exports are going to South Korea. So, where is the fault line for India? It's such a large economy with the skill and all the attributes that we have been, we have much to claim about. But in terms of our exports in electronics, we are just not doing well as a small nation is doing in the very recent past. Because whether it is components, whether it is components or it is the final product, whichever product you see, there is a trade deficit that India has. I remember one graph, I was looking for it for a long time if I could find it. I was not able to locate it, but in all the components and the final products, there's a huge trade deficit that India has, and there's a trade surplus that Vietnam has in many of those. So that is.
Okay, as a company, I think so. Samsung has a major presence in manufacturing in Vietnam, and while I would not be privy to further details of that, but yes, Vietnam has been a very good base for manufacturing, and that's why when we look at comparisons, we look at Vietnam, apart from China, of course, the global, so to say, powerhouse out there. And our experience has been extremely good in Vietnam, undoubtedly. What one has to remember is that each country has its own way of working and ethos. And when we look at challenges in India, I think it would be very wrong on our part to brush away the challenges that I'm sure all of us would be facing in other countries also, including Vietnam and the other nations in the world. So there are complexities, there are issues that have to be grappled with. India, obviously, with its domestic market, large domestic market to be fed from here is something we have to cater for. Companies have to look at the competitiveness when it comes to exports from one country to another. And I guess Vietnam has been an early mover out there. So it does reap the benefits on that front. But I would leave it to Sir because you're spearheading the exports out of India. So you would be the best person. So with your experience to talk on that.
Request our Korean friends to throw some light on it.
I don't know much about that, but let me add a little bit about what you asked. Vietnam and Korea are culturally closer than the India and Korea because of the tradition of the Confucianism that they have, and that's one reason that. And the other is that I believe that when Vietnam approached us, they did not have much FDIs from the other countries, and so they were very eager to have our investment, and they've been very willing to make some changes and the infrastructures and so on and the support. So actually I had a question to Mr. Sharma about that, and I wonder if you've been attracting a lot of foreign direct investment from all over the world. So do you have any kind of a support in terms of infrastructure building when you attract the FDIs? And I also have I want to ask that if you have the policy that build out of the government money to build the infrastructure for the special the companies, then it means for certain reasons that you're spending more So was there any kind of the conflict between the regional government to attract the FDIs when you because these days the Samsung this is an internal Korean issue, but Samsung made it had a plan to make a big investment in some part of the Korean region, and the government had to bring the water and electricity, and that's the huge cost, and it makes it very difficult for them to make those investments because of all this regional government and those kind of things. So this is not the FDI context, but I like to know if there's any experience that you have.
Yeah, I think, of course, we have an FDI policy which has its own components. But when it comes to building up infrastructure, while regional governments have their own policies, they set up their own infrastructure, they set up their own industrial parks and clusters with good facilities. But Government of India has also come out with a mega program about 2 decades ago. That was the National Industrial Development, Industrial Corridor Development Corporations. The whole objective was that we would, with Government of India support, along with the state government, will build up world-class plug and play facilities, industrial townships, where people could come and invest. It was all services, including the environment clearance and the kind of approvals which a company needs, will all be given there. So the time saved there, like there used to be a time when environment clearance in India used to take about a year. You have to do the impact study and this and that, which has come down to some of the towns which we have built up under the NICDC. The environment clearance has already been taken for the whole geography. So an individual company doesn't have to go and seek environment clearance separately, as long as we meet the total benchmark of environmental parameters. Similarly, on statutory approvals, land acquisition, to get a plot allotted in some of our cities in Aurangabad, as I was talking about with Hushong, I mean, it took them only 16 days. On the 16th day, they had the land in their hand with a plug and play facility. So this Government of India has been investing heavily on these industrial townships. At the same time, state is also coming out with their own policies, their own incentives, and building up their own infrastructure facilities in the state. So there is always a competition between the, I mean, we call it a cooperative federalism. It's a co-competition. We don't call it a competition. But then, yes, state governments also, depending on the kind of their strength, they are also coming out with additional incentives and policies whereby they would like to attract. So whether it is Samsung, the government of Uttar Pradesh wants them to continue there, but then the government of Telangana may also ask them to be there. So there will be always a competition, but which is a healthy competition. I think we should not mind. In fact, when we wanted KIET to come in our Aurangabad plant, we offered them 50% special incentive on land. And the counterpart was the AP government with Mr. Naidu. He offered them land almost free of cost. And the KIET landed in Anantapur. And Husong came with 50% land, but Husong completed the plant in 52 weeks, and KIET took much longer. So it all depends on what you have, because your priority should be that you want to commission operationalize your plant in time, or you want to have incentives but delay on your. So because government changed in Andhra Pradesh, and then things become slightly difficult for them. But I'm saying this is how. And when we talk about Vietnam, you have given an example. India, we grow at about 9 to 10% GDP, but then almost 3% of it goes the cost to democracy. We have a democratic government. I mean, you can't acquire land the way other countries can acquire for public purposes. In China, you don't have to do anything. You have to just go and say, I'm going to take over this land. In India, you can't buy an inch of land. So, this is democracy. I mean, we live in a system where and it has its own value. So, and Vietnam is a small, I mean, the whole of Vietnam, what is their domestic consumption? What is their population? How much labor and skilled labor they can afford? ultimately India has the demographic dividend which this country has. I don't think anybody else will have. The only thing is they should be skilled. They should not become a liability. So the potential is immense. And that is why government is consciously working on skill development. We have come out with chips to startup programs. Almost 100 odd universities are now putting up good advanced courses on semiconductors, because that's a new sector. On AI, the way India has come out with one of the fastest growing ecosystem on AI. You look at the startups, you look at generative AI, compute capacity, a lot of work is happening. But then, yes, there are much bigger companies, whether it is SK Hynix or Samsung. I mean, that partnership will ensure that we do better than our neighbor. I think that's something which is good for you and good for us. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, please.
So, Dr. Kim, that was a very comprehensive and excellent presentation, actually. So, out of curiosity, just wanted to know, what is the possibility of India and Korea having digital trade in areas like health or, say, legal matters, legal services or accounting, and how much actually it will boost the trade between the two countries?
Could you say again? I'm not quite understand that.
Digital trade, using the trade digital platform, if we have a sort of understanding between India and Korea to do trading in, say, trade in digital, services like health, medical services, or legal services, or say accounting, or even for that matter, in financial services. So I think if that we can introduce as part of CEPA or something, that can actually boost, cooperation between India and Korea in a big way. So what do you see the possibility of this happening?
Which field we may talk about that the digital service, you mean? I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure that which field we may talk about. We may cooperate between Korea and India. Maybe the India has kind of the quality in the medical or some kind of bio industry, some services. That would be one of the the cooperation field area that we can do. And also I didn't quite see the statistics between the two countries about the service the trade. I don't know, but how about what do you think about that? Which field would be the most promising field between India and Korea? Do you think any idea?
I think we'll let it rest in that. Anybody else? Then, with your permission, may I conclude the session? I must thank our panelists for very in-depth and useful presentations and sharing of ideas. And I think it's the beginning of a long constructive engagement amongst us, and with results outside in the actual world. I think it'll be good. But concluding session is yours. So.
So, okay, I would like to express my appreciation to everyone who attended to today's dialogue as a presenter and discussants and audiences and also the online audiences as well. I would like to also express my sincere gratitude to, of course, the director Nagishi Kumar and Professor and also the those who prepare and organize this seminar, especially the Dr. Reggie Joseph. And it was quite impressive, and I already begin to worry about the next year's seminar. And so let me look back to what we discussed today. And in the first session, we talked about how to increase investment of Korea into the India again. After the 1980s and 1990s, it has been stagnant. So we need to something to change the situation. And we also talked about how we can make these companies to contribute to value addition to Indian economy, not just bring some products and assembles and sell. That's definitely what we want also, we Koreans want also. So we want to contribute to the Indian economy, and we want to have a win-win situation. So there's something we have to work on afterward. And there's a discussion that how to increase export to Korea to reduce the budget, the trade imbalances. So maybe we need some patience, and we need some strategies, and we actually found some solutions in the second sessions that in terms of green economy and green hydrogen, there is a big demand in Korea that has to be developed, and there is a big potential from Indian economy. And so, and also there was a suggestion that we need to upgrade the SIPA very fast, and maybe we can go on to the advanced kind of a like ICT or something like that. So that was a very big, very helpful suggestions, and then that's what we want to work on, and as a joint research project maybe from now on. And in the third session, I also found this session very instructive from the experience and knowledge of the Mr. Sharma, and also from the where he is. I don't know where he is, but from Mr. Agrawal of the who signifies the cooperation between India and Korea. So as a vice president of the Samsung. So this has been a very very instructive, intriguing, and I learned a lot about the Indian economy and the policies and cooperation between Korea. And I look forward to the next year's meeting. Actually, as His Excellency Ambassador Kumar said in the morning, I met him in Seoul last week, and I sensed that he has a great fondness for Korea. And he also suggested some subject, such as the shipbuilding industry and industry human resource development. Those are the subjects that I want to explore in the next year's seminar as well. I also think that there are many areas that where Korea and India can work together and create synergies. And I hope that KIET and ISID's work will contribute to not only just the additional research that we do, but also more cooperation in policy and business from now on. So following today's conclusion of an MOU that we signed today, I will work to ensure that active exchanges between KIET and ISID continue. So once again, I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Kumar and everyone here and at ISID who helped prepare this wonderful event. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kwan, President of KIET. I think we have really achieved a milestone today, signing an institutional MOU between us, which we hope will help and facilitate the larger purpose, as you said, of bringing to our two economies closer and exploit their synergies for a win-win kind of, development for both the sides. Both sides feel we are benefiting from the other. And so this is, I think, a very important sort of objective to which we will work. And as everyone since the morning has said, the complementarities provide for this win-win kind of solutions and win-win kind of partnership, because the reference was made to the aging society in Korea and youth bulge in India, the large growing market in India, then software advantage of India which combines very well with the hardware strength of Korea, and then the abundance of capital in Korea, but abundance of labor and skills in India. So I think if we really begin to exploit these complementary strengths, there is a very huge potential waiting for us to tap. And so our partnership hopefully will contribute to that. This stagnating trade and investment, despite the such a huge complementary synergies staying there. So that is very unfortunate that we have not been able to tap it so far. And so the effort of this partnership between KIET and ISID should facilitate that process. And so I was thinking of two things. One as a follow-up, and of course, finally, to thank everyone who contributed to this. In terms of follow-ups, I think we will, of course, prepare a report and so some proceedings of today's discussion, share it with you, Dr. Kwan, and then finalize and circulate, put it out in some way. You can also take it to your government. We can take it to our policymakers. The second would be, of course, prepare for continuity and so build on today's discussions and yesterday's discussion between our teams to develop some joint projects now that we are beginning to know each other better. And so we will develop some ideas for joint research, which could be taken up and next dialogue when we do in KIET, some of that can be presented, including some ideas about shipbuilding or other industries where potential is there. IT, certainly, electronics, certainly, and auto value chains, certainly. The new idea of ICET, again, very interesting. So all of these green technologies and green industry. So the number of very fruitful opportunities are there to be explored. So we should develop some policy papers and jointly with your colleagues and carry this discussion and engagement forward. So that is what, so we will be in touch with you, Dr. Kwan, to work out some schedules for future next engagement. And then finally, I think, we are really grateful to you, Dr. Chikon, for accepting our invitation, bringing a team from, KIET and join us here for this discussion. I am also very grateful to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Korea, Mr. Lee Sung-go, for very interesting, and very insightful, but also visionary kind of address this morning. He really said that you are a brain trust. I mean, the two institutes coming together. And similarly, our own ambassador in Seoul, Mr. Amit Kumar, sent a very nice message. So they stay on record and will encourage us to carry forward this discussion. And I really want to thank, everyone who contributed to this, including our own, Mr. Ajay Shankar, who is always sort of willing to help ISID as board member, and in all different discussions, he always is ready to support and guide us. So everyone has seen his contribution to this dialogue has been very substantive. Mr. Alkesh Sharma, who's former secretary to the Ministry of IT and Electronics, where most of this electronics value chain work is being done, and he has been driving this process, which is showing results for all of us to see. And Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, who was a part of this group of people who spearheaded, but now moved on to Samsung. So that way, India Korea joint venture. Yes. So, and Danish, a very good friend, but now he's with the CII and driving the value chains work in CII and ease of doing business. So when we come up with some issues of very specific nature where ease of doing business is not the case, then we can really knock his door to sort of help facilitate, because CII is a very important body, as we know, in the country, and they are constantly working together with government to facilitate the industrialization process. And so we see CII as a very important partner. And all of my colleagues who have contributed to this, this discussion this morning, but also, organizing, helping to organize this and bringing all of us together. So we are very grateful to entire team led by Dr. Reji Joseph, and Rama also contributed to that in the paper and morning session conducting. So let us give them a very big hand. So with that, like every good thing, it comes to an end. But as Mr. Shankar said, this is the beginning of the process. And so today's dialogue is ending now, but our partnership is starting. So we look forward to very, very fruitful engagement with KIET. And so all of your colleagues, we will be in touch. Thank you very much.